Welcome to a new episode of The Week That Was, TIOL's News Roundup. Today, my colleague Neha and I, Asha, shall bring you a filtered version of all the news which unfolded during the week. Let's move on to the first news. Was the government's black money compliance window a failure? Let's find out. As reported last week, the government's compliance window for declaration of overseas assets netted 638 declarants. However, there was a change in the figure for the quantum of assets disclosed, which has gone up from Rs 3,770 crore to Rs 4,147 crore, as announced by Revenue Secretary Mr. Hasmukh Adhya. How accurate is this figure? Who are the declarants? While the government is not going to talk about them as per the scheme, we found that a good number of these declarants were perhaps over-worried and advisory deficient individuals, like software engineers who had lived overseas, earned and invested there. Going by the scheme, they were not even eligible to make declarations. But what would happen to such declarations now? Let's hear from TIOL Tube founder-editor Mr. Shailendra Kumar.
Thank you, Asha. In case of all such declarations, the department has time up to October 15th to verify the eligibility of declarants, and if some of them are found to be falling outside the ambit of the scheme, such declarations are going to be rejected. One consequence of such rejection would be that the total sum of declaration would be much less than what has been announced by the government. Secondly, depending on the financial hardships, some declarants may seek extension of time for making tax payments. This is to be seen whether the department really grants them such extension based on merit of each case or not.
Thank you, Mr. Kumar. It is learnt that the real culprits, which are companies and trusts, seem to be sitting quiet as they are fearlessly missing from the list. After all, the quantum of declarations at Rs 4,000 crore is only the tip of the iceberg, because black money overseas is estimated to be in billions of dollars. No wonder experts believe that the compliance window that brought in declarations of only Rs 4,000 crore has failed to achieve its expected internal targets. If nothing, this does prove that Indians are mighty fearless. Now let's move on to Neha for our next news.
The Revenue Department has turned to technology to check tax evasion within India. Even as the department gathers intelligence to excavate black money held by Indians in foreign shores, the Finance Minister Mr. Arun Jaitley accepted in a Facebook post on Sunday that the bulk of the black money lies within India. Hence, the department's monitoring mechanisms are being strengthened, as it will now apply technology-driven analytical tools to expose evasion. The department is eyeing large cash withdrawals or evidence of hefty cash transactions to zero in on tax evasion. Now, is plastic better than cash? Let's find out from Asha.
The Finance Ministry now wants to bring about a change in the attitude of the people to encourage the use of plastic money and minimize cash transactions. To encourage such change, the government is closely working with various authorities to push people to use internet banking and a large number of payment gateways which have been opened to encourage e-commerce. To discourage cash transactions, the government is actively considering the requirement of providing PAN card details for cash transactions beyond a certain limit. Does it mean we shall now need to carry the PAN card along with our driving license?
To make black money tracking more effective, the Union Cabinet on Wednesday approved the protocols for exchange of information under the double taxation avoidance agreements with Israel and Vietnam. The amended agreements, as per international standards, shall enable India to get bank information and exchange it with other enforcement agencies to prevent evasion of taxes. In addition, India's DTAA with Israel shall provide a limitation of benefits clause, which is an anti-abuse provision to enable the use of domestic law in case of misuse of the convention.
Most governments around the world are hell-bent on curbing tax evasion and have long pressured Switzerland, the bastion of banking secrecy, to ease the protection on bank account holders. Well, Switzerland seems to have finally started to buckle under the pressure and agreed to expose details of its dormant accounts, which have not been operated for the last 60 years. Information about such unclaimed accounts in the names of foreigners, including Indians, will be compiled from all Switzerland-based banks, which will give legal beneficiaries an opportunity to submit a claim. In December 2015, Switzerland will publish the list of accounts dormant since 1955, but without stating the name of the bank or the value of the assets held. Experts believe that some of the accounts may belong to Indian kings and family members of the former princely states whose descendants either do not know about the existence of these accounts or were unable to make a successful claim. An interesting question would be, can the Indian government claim the riches, if there are any, lying in these Swiss bank accounts owned by the Indians? After all, while the account may not be illegal, it is undeclared and in case of a royal account possibly comprising taxes collected from the Indian public, the money may well belong to the Indian people and not the Swiss Confederacy. Discrepancies in international tax systems have resulted in glaring anomalies with the creation of tax havens or multinationals using conduit companies in cross-border transactions. However, the OECD addresses these issues in the report on base erosion and profit shifting released on Monday. Countries are expected to adopt these recommendations to prevent tax avoidance through treaty shopping or even modification of bilateral tax treaties. Let's hear from the CBDT chairman, Ms. Anita Kapoor, about India's position on BEPS.
In India, when we used to talk of as tax administration, the source country, right, that please pay our taxes because you've added value in India, we were the minority voice. With the BEPS project, our concerns have been heard and we are no longer the minority voice.
Let's now go on to Mr. D.P. Sengupta, who will explain the background and the challenges posed for India by this report, as well as the grey areas left unaddressed, like taxation in the digital space.
The BEPS project actually vindicates the stand taken by the much maligned Indian revenue that everything is not all right. There are certain basic issues which have not been dealt with by the OECD. For example, why base erosion takes place? Of course, the OECD has identified a few areas, but apart from what have been identified by the OECD in the project, there are certain more areas, like for example, base erosion takes place because of the current rules of taxation, whereby if you take many examples from the reported cases, take the case of rice florist, for example, it was not possible for India to tax any profit that was going out of India, and the overall profit base was being eroded because the rules of international taxation are such that it did not give the right of taxation to India.
Let's hear from Neha now about the International Customs Meet held in Goa.
For the first time, the 11th meeting of the heads of customs administrations of 53 member states of Asia and Europe was held in India. The Central Board of Excise and Customs Chairman, Mr. Najib Shah, inaugurated this two-day meet of Directors General and Commissioners of Customs on Thursday in Goa, stating that there was the need for increasing the cooperation between the customs and tax authorities of different countries. To achieve efficient customs control, the CBSE was shifting emphasis on automation, single window clearance and risk management to facilitate the movement of legitimate goods and to focus resources on high-risk areas. Large taxpayer units have been set up where all services, be it customs, excise, service tax and direct taxes, are rendered under one roof. Representatives from 44 nations along with the international organizations, European Union and the ASEAN Secretariat participated in the two-day conference. Mr. Kunio Mikuria, the Secretary General of the 180-member strong World Customs Organization, was also present at the event as an observer. Other discussions focused on issues before the Asia-Europe meeting relating to trade facilitation, supply chain security, communication and how to combat the infringement of intellectual property rights besides protection of society and environment. The meet concluded with an action plan in the form of Goa Declaration. Later, Mr. Najib Shah also escorted the guests to the Indian Customs Museum in the historic 150-year-old Blue Building at Panji, providing detailed briefs about the various sections of the museum such as the Battle of.
To encourage foreign private investment and quickly resolve legacy tax issues, the Chief Economic Advisor, Mr. Arvind Subramanian, has announced that all cases relating to backdated tax demands will now be referred to the AP Shah Committee. For quick resolution of other pending tax cases wherein tax demands amounting to hundreds of crores of rupees, the mandate of this panel has now been expanded to include all legacy tax issues inherited from the previous government. Mr. Subramanian announced that even transfer pricing cases covered as legacy issues shall be dealt with by the Shah Committee. Even charity may be motivated by tax rebates. The government's high-level committee on monitoring the compulsory corporate social responsibility scheme in its first year of implementation found that a board's decisions seemed to be guided more by the tax savings implications rather than compelling community needs. For example, the Prime Minister's National Relief Fund offering a tax exemption may receive more contributions than perhaps a local school. The panel has hence suggested that there must be uniform tax treatment to all CSR activities carried out under the New Companies Act. Corporate social responsibility was made compulsory under the New Companies Act, with profitable companies required to provide 2% of their 3-year annual average net profit towards CSR activities. Who will monitor the spend? It will be the company board or management and not the government. Who shall monitor CSR expenditure? The panel has clarified that the existing principle of comply or explain was sufficient for the time being. Tax litigation always multiplies when an amendment operates prospectively and there are ambiguous judicial decisions on treatment of pending cases for earlier years. In such cases, the CBDT needs to wake up and issue a circular to end the confusion and settle the issue. For example, the distance of agricultural land from a municipality or cantonment board decides its fate for exclusion as capital asset for the purpose of Section 2, Subclause 14 of the Income Tax Act. The CBDT has now broken its silence. It issued a circular on Tuesday that the department has accepted the decision of the Nagpur bench of the Bombay High Court, holding that for the period prior to amendment, the distance between the municipal limit and the agricultural land is to be measured with regard to the shortest road distance. Following this circular, no appeals will be filed on this ground by the department and pending appeals shall be withdrawn or not pressed. The CBDT needs to similarly impart clarity on issues clouded in ambiguity in order to conclude litigation with a single clean stroke.
Delhi is known mostly for the wrong reasons, and one of them is air pollution. Most of it is caused by the vehicles, especially the 66,000 heavy commercial vehicles entering Delhi. The Green Tribunal has finally woken up to the fact that low toll tax is an incentive for heavy vehicles to pass through Delhi rather than taking an alternative route. The tribunal has therefore directed all commercial transport vehicles entering Delhi to pay environmental compensation in addition to toll tax. This environment tax is on the basis of the number of axles on the vehicle. Vehicles not destined for Delhi shall not be allowed to pass through the city. The tribunal has directed that such vehicles will be diverted at Panipat to take an alternative route via NH 71 and 71A to exit at Bawal in Haryana. TIOL hopes that the implementation is effective and not another new channel for bribery.
When the chairman of the Authority for Advanced Rulings was being criticized for the slow disposal of applications seeking advanced rulings, he decided to take his critics head-on at the CII organized International Tax Conference in Delhi on Thursday. While flaying counsels for seeking adjournments after adjournments, he asked how can the authority dispose of cases within 6 months in this background. He also ruled that the Income Tax Department does not cooperate and vacancies are not filled up in time. He also pointed out that of 500 cases pending, as many as 140 are from one group itself.
You will be shocked to know, gentlemen, that the applications pending with me are over about 500. And this figure of 500 is thrown at my place, Justice Sirpurkar, your pendency is 500, 550. Without realizing that out of them 140 are the group matters in one group, without realizing that there are so many group matters, without realizing that till last 2 months I did not have a law member. When I came first, assumed my charge on 4th December, well, I did not have even the technical member with me, who came thereafter. Is this providing the infrastructure? Infrastructure is not provided by providing chairs, by providing chambers, by providing computers, by providing the staff. Infrastructure is also, this is also a part of the infrastructure. At least make the appointments in time.
Replying to the charges, the CBDT chairman, Ms. Anita Kapoor, quickly committed that the revenue would not seek adjournments and only senior officers would be allowed to appear before the authority.
Some things are not. Whatever is in my control, I can assure him. I'll take every step that my officers don't seek adjournment, one, and my officers give a position to which they stick. These are two things which are under my control, and I'm sure you will see some change there. We recently issued an instruction saying that only senior officers would appear in AR because we realized that our younger officers were not able to either explain the position of the department on the complex issues which come to AR, nor are they in a position to really effectively articulate our viewpoints.
On this note, we conclude this bulletin of the week that was, TIOL's News Roundup. Please do write us your comments, counsel, criticism and even news at editor@tiol.in. You may subscribe to TIOL Tube to remain updated on new posts. Have a great weekend.